from Mexico, but currently sitting in the UK. We'll hear from Professor Constantino Lopez Macias, who's the IUIS Council member and head of medical research unit at immunochemistry, at the Mexican Institute for Social Security and part of BACTIVAC. Constantino will also be talking about trust as well as transformation and strengthening our local and regional immunology networks. And I will, as I said, introduce Amit when he's able to join us tomorrow. But let's begin our discussion with Carla on the theme of transformation. How is immunology transforming lives, as you see, through technology and also through culture and collaboration?
Well, thank you, Emily. First, thank you for having us here today. Thanks for everybody at IUIS that put together this webinar. And I want to thank especially everybody joining us today. So happy World Science Day to all of us. I'm very excited to join today. I'm right here in my new office at the University of Minnesota and delighted to discuss about transformation, trust, and the future of science. I know this is very important to all of us. So with regards to your question, I mean, these are very interesting aspects, right? When you think about science, obviously we are enabled by new technologies, new developments, and definitely that's a transformative aspect of science, right? So we have new tools, we become very specialized about them, and that's phenomenal. We are able to gather new knowledge with new approaches and new techniques. I think this also allows for what could be a challenge, but I think it's an opportunity, and it's that cultural shift, that changing towards being more collaborative. So with new technologies, we become specialized, right? And I think to really advance in science, we have learned that we do better when we collaborate. And in that sense, I believe this is probably important for all disciplines, but immunology is a discipline that advances a lot because of collaboration. And so when we think about collaboration, you can think collaboration across disciplines. Immunology, as I always say, intersects with many, many disciplines. We have seen tremendous advances. I'll just give some few examples, and I'm sorry for all the ones that I will not cover, but we can think about how oncology and immunology has transformed how we diagnose, maybe prevent and treat cancer. Neuroscience and immunology is transforming how we understand neurodegenerative diseases, how we understand pain, right? New technologies and computer science, bioinformatics, and immunology is charting all the cells, all the networks, all the systems. So you can see how technology and collaboration come together across different disciplines. And the last point that I think is very important, especially you mentioned we're a global community, a lot of what we do can impact our understanding of, for instance, infectious diseases that are more prevalent in some parts of the world or that are based on different genetics. And so I think collaboration between geneticists, epidemiologists, and immunologists is also transforming how we connect across continents. So disciplines, continents, all together for advancing global immunology.
Excellent. That bringing it all together, immunology without borders.
Yes.
Constantino, how has this, spinning on the collaboration piece that Carla was just speaking about, how have collaborations in Latin America helped drive the transformation despite funding or research challenges?
Yes, thanks, Emily, and hello to everyone. And of course, this introduction that Carla made is just the point. I mean, science is a tool that humanity has to improve lives. So we need to use it and to strength. And in our case, in Latin America, in Mexico, with the lack of sources. So we are focusing, like I'm working in a hospital, so our science has to be create knowledge and to take the knowledge that is created in other areas to improve the health of the people that we are treating. So that's our mission. And so I think we have two big things. The two big missions is to create knowledge and to apply it to improve lives. And collaboration, as mentioned, in a place where we don't have much resources is fundamental. And it's changing the way we are doing science, because now we're joining together in Latin America, like public and private endeavors, like academics with industrials, policymakers, and to solve problems. And these, we had an example recently with the pandemic of COVID, where this happens, and then we all joined and we developed a vaccine. In Mexico, we got all the way through the basics, preclinical, manufacture, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and it was because it was joint effort of academia, policymakers, industry, and everybody was putting the best of the resources, and we did it with much less sources that others have in other high-income countries, for instance. So I believe this is fundamental. We have been changing the way we work. We are building a lot of core facilities. We are strengthening the training of people, sharing materials. Among immunologists, we have our Mexican and Latin America society of immunology, and then we have our meetings, and then we collaborate, and then we try to foster and make a lot of courses for the people to get trained and send them. This is among the region, but also, like I'm doing now, is visiting other country, like England, and then we get this collaboration with people that has all the resources. Sometimes they get more money, and also they get new technology, and so we can get access to have the state-of-the-art technology and to learn that and bring it to our countries to fulfill this mission that we have, to generate knowledge and to apply it to get better health for the people. So I think it's fundamental, and this is the way it is transforming what we are doing in lives. And IUIS, with this international collaboration, is fostering this. And that's the idea that we could do more and more. And so far has been quite successful, and is having an impact in the places where it's needed.
Excellent. No, Constantino, I fully agree that collaboration around the world and across the world is absolutely what the IUIS was initially founded on back in the 60s, and is where we're increasingly seeing the best results when we work together. Carla, I know you've just been in a transformation, moving from Yale to University of Minnesota. So any thoughts? But, before Yale, you had the transformation of leaving your home country and going to the US. Any thoughts or reflections?
Thank you for bringing that up. I was listening to Constantino, and of course remembering and being very grateful for the efforts of all the scientists across the world, but also close to my heart, all the scientists in Latin America. I'm from Argentina. I did all my undergraduate studies at the University of Buenos Aires. I did my PhD with Belén Elgoyen at the University of Buenos Aires, and now more than 2 decades ago, I came to the United States. So everything that you said, Constantino, really resonated with me and my experience, and I appreciate how the whole world, but also how Latin American scientists are coming together to really advance science. So really exciting to hear you.
Yeah, thanks.
Great. Let's pivot to our next Day of Science theme, which is the theme of trust. Trust is really easy to lose and very hard to rebuild. As institutions hosting immunologists and as IUIS is working with scientists across the world, how do we navigate? How do we best navigate that communication of uncertainty that is an inherent part of the work that we do in scientific research? And how do we yet promote that trust in science that is so critical to get folks to believe in what you're doing?
Yeah. Thank you. That's such an important question, something that I think many of us think about a lot. I think like as everything that is important in life, we work a lot towards it and it can be broken very easily, right? And that's what you mentioned, Emily, right? So how do we build, right, the trust and we maintain the trust in science? Super important, I think, for all of us. I was listening to Constantino. You mentioned science is a tool that improves lives. I cannot agree more. I think science is also a process. I'm sure if we stay to discuss about what science is, we can have a very long webinar. So I'm just going to, focus on some things that I've been thinking about. And I truly live science as a process. Hopefully my colleagues agree. And in that process, right, we do discoveries. And the discovery sometimes, obviously discoveries is a new, appreciation. And sometimes it's entirely new, but many times new discoveries make us reevaluate, rethink what we held as truth. That is part of the scientific process, right? We advance, it's dynamic, we learn new things. Sometimes it means that what we thought was true is a little bit different. Let me give one, classic example. Let's say, for instance, many centuries ago in some civilizations, there was this thought that the sun would go around the earth. And that was what some civilizations, let's say at the time, held as truth. And of course, the right scientific process made us realize that it was quite different, right? That took many scientists, a lot of efforts, a lot of work. So science is a process that evolves, that gets us closer to the truth. And in doing so, it can sometimes change what we held as truth. So that's, I think, is a very important thing that I value in understanding about the scientific process. Now, how do we gain trust or maintain our trust? I think reflecting upon that, it's good to reflect on how this right scientific process has really advanced our understanding and impact our lives, as Constantino was saying. I think there is no doubt that, for instance, when you think about immunology, we can think that we can treat infectious diseases with antibiotics, that we can prevent infectious diseases, maybe even eradicate with vaccines, that we can treat some, really serious diseases with advances from the scientific knowledge in immunology. Hopefully that gives us the confidence that the right scientific process is worth taking and can be impactful, right? Now, to really maintain that trust, I think we must combine that confidence and the preparation that we all have for decades to take the scientific process forward with humility, because there's lots of things that we don't know. There are lots of infectious diseases that are resistant to anything that we have developed. We don't have vaccines to some of, very serious diseases, let's say, effective vaccines to HIV. We can talk about so many examples, right? How do we tackle that? We tackle with the confidence that we have acquired and with the specialization, the dedication, the integrity to follow the right scientific process with humility to really allow this to advance. And I hope not only all of us as scientists share that perspective, but I hope we can communicate that clearly to all humanity, that this is how science or the scientific process works. So this is very important, I think, for all of us in this day of science in the whole world, to be able to communicate how the scientific process works.
Constantina, you want to build on that?
Yeah, I think those are very important points. And in fact, we have lots of problems around the world on many things. And science can help us with this process to solve those problems. So using evidence-based knowledge to solve the problems. And but sometimes we have not been so really efficient to communicate that this process is so helpful, and then we should really, have. I put the example of as a tool because sometimes maybe it's easier. It's like, don't use that. Use this tool. That to leave that is something to leverage. Not your hands, and also to say that at least like for instance in our institute that we are a health institute, our mission is to provide and make lives better, to provide better medical service through evidence-based medicine. So then a lot of people comes and we have a lot of problems with cancer patients, people they have diabetes and they have hypertension. It derives in cardiovascular problems, also stroke and many other diseases. So we are working very hard to cure that. And that's our mission, to be able to identify it early as possible and then go all the way and cure them and use all the knowledge produced by ourselves, but also in all the parts of the world. That's why collaboration and dissemination of the knowledge is so important to apply and to cure these people better. But also try to understand the causes of the diseases, the causes of these problems, and then try to stop them at the beginning. So before they get sick is how can we prevent that? And then that's why coming also all this interaction with other social scientists that help us to communicate and to educate people on they have to eat properly, they have to sleep properly, they have to exercise, and how the way of living and these habits are impacting your health and make you have a longer and healthier life. So then it's not enough with the scientists because we are doing experiments in the lab, we are trying to design the new vaccine or the new treatment, and sometimes we cannot communicate. And this has been a big gap of communication. And the people in general start being, I would say, influenced by others that write in the social media lies or semi-lies, or I don't know how to say it, imprecisions on things is not based in proper data, not based with this process, which is very important to guarantee that is the best data we can get to use to solve a problem. And they say, yeah, vaccines, at the beginning with Jenner, they had in the newspaper people that they were cows coming out of the ears and out of the body.
Yes.
They say, yeah, because this guy is putting this and you're going to get a cow coming out. Of course, never happened and it never will happen. But people believe that and we're rejecting the vaccine. But then people accepted because they saw that the disease was worse, much worse than whatever could happen with the vaccination. And people accepted that because they saw all these patients with smallpox, with polio, with many things, and it was horrible diseases and was crippling people. But now, vaccine has been very successful, and people doesn't see anymore all these people with the dots and dying, and all the deaths in the streets, and all that part. And now people, they don't understand that if we stop vaccinating, these times can come, and it's happening.
Come back again.
Yeah, and then it's horrible that you get a child with measles, and get into the hospital because he had measles because they didn't put a vaccine. And this is one of the most infectious diseases, most infectious agents we have.
A question to both of you, because you were talking about the scientific process, and how there's the process of going through the rigor, the tests, the repeat tests, the replicable evidence. That's a universal phenomenon. And Constantina, you were saying, we've got these problems all over the world, but cultures aren't the same all over the world. And the systems of belief and therefore communication need to find that nuance. I remember in the 2013-14 Ebola outbreak, that became so absolutely painfully obvious that the way we communicate is so regionally or ethnically or locally specific. I wonder if you guys can speak a bit about your experiences of how modifying the communication methods work or don't work in your experience.
I mean, that's so important, Emily. Thank you for bringing it up. When I think about this, I think we are, a world, right? And indeed, many different societies, many different cultures. And I think that that's why it's so important that science advances in every single one of these places in the world, because then it would be the scientists within each of those communities that maybe are able to communicate in the best way. I think we can all strive to communicate the best way globally, right? Even if we belong to a particular region, if we grew up in a particular society, we should try to do that. But maybe if we come together with the understanding that we come from different cultures, with different beliefs, but we all become scientists, right? And follow the scientific process, maybe each of these individuals are the best ones to go back to their regions. That's why really Immunology Without Borders, which is what we really work for in IUIS, making sure that science reaches everywhere in the world and scientists come from everywhere in the world, can completely transform this, because then we have the local communicators, right? I don't know, Constantino, if you agree with some of this perspective, but that might not be the only solution, but that is one, right, that can help us make sure that we have a good global communication on the scientific process and the scientific discoveries.
Yeah,
Constantino,
exactly.
yeah?
Yes, this is extremely important. Each region, even within a country, each region has its own ways. And we need to really to bring this there and to be able to communicate, to speak the people of each region, not just each country or even small regions. And that's why we need to promote science, promote knowledge, promote that there are specialized people that can help us to transmit the message, to communicate a message, because this is a specialty. It's not that simple. We try our best, but we have been failing, unfortunately, because we don't dominate all the languages or all the aspects. So it's not like science is general, the process is global, but the communication is very particular. And then we need to work with the specialized people, of course, doing our best and try to translate the complexities of these solutions into a simple way that that can be communicable to people that has not the same expertise than us. There are different expertise. And it's like when you are talking to another person that has another kind of job, another kind of, background. And so it's a humbling experience that, and then it's not like, oh, we're gonna tell you what to do and you should follow this. Is look the evidence and the way they can really appreciate. And for sure, what you have said is fundamental in what is IUIS doing, and this Immunology Without Borders to go and promote the capacity building, training, and sharing, and everyone go on these meetings and give lectures and get engaged with society, and seminars like this roundtable internationally that people are discussing, and we can share ideas and try to get a clear way how to communicate clearly, speaking all the languages we do not speak. I'm not meaning just like English or French, or I mean, it's meaning the evidence-based.
Right. Yeah.
Data, how is you can check on how you can use this to make your life better.
Yeah, we've got some comments in the chat coming in. So I'll share just a couple of thoughts. Helping folks learn how the tools we use in our labs can have a real world impact is one thing that has been suggested. Holding or hosting Ask Me Anything sessions online so that scientists have the opportunity to just kind of respond in the moment rather than prescribed scripts. In case, for all of our viewers out there, in case you can't tell, this is not scripted. This is a genuine conversation, so do keep your comments coming. They're great. Another one is to use simple analogies to help understand the difference between causality versus correlation, which I think,
that's so important.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in the recent debates about the spike or huge increase in autism cases in the U.S. There was a great graph saying, well, Starbucks sales have also seen a huge spike over the same period. That doesn't mean Starbucks is, and no beef with Starbucks for the record, everyone. So it's making sure that there is that fluency in understanding. Okay, there is a difference, and the work that we're doing is to find out the nuance of just where the meeting point of that different starts and stops.
Well, very important comments. Thank you so much.
It's great.
So important, right? Not to just give our lectures, right, to the scientific community, but have these open forums where we can have people from the community ask me about anything. And I'm sure that we must have people viewing that are at different stages of their careers. I have seen particularly our younger scientists being incredibly innovative on how to make sure we can communicate the latest. And that's a very good point. Don't confuse correlation with causality. Very, very important.
Exactly.
Yes. And concerning with the tools we use in the lab, usually a lot of these tools get to help us to make experiments and to advance technology, and that we can obtain more precise answers to our questions. And then we see how this can be used for diagnosis, for instance, for example, like ELISA test in a moment was just for research, it was not available. And now in many labs and many detection tests for several diseases are using ELISA flow cytometry, and to do this analysis on the cells. It was to understand process. I mean, like the T regulatory cells were discovered basically until Sakaguchi. He could have an access to one of these machines, and then he could characterize these cells. But then it became that, oh, we can do this and identify these people that have more on that in these cells, and this is then we can have a diagnosis on this disease, or in this kind of cancer, the cancer on these cells, they can be with this marker A, B, or C, and then the A, we can treat it better with this medicine, B with that medicine. So then nowadays, flow cytometry, PCR to check on the genes, and to check, for example, when bacteria comes in the hospital is multi-resistant to different antibiotics. They come to our lab, hey, I got this bug and we don't know, so we sequence quickly, and then we said, oh, it's as these resistant genes, and you can use this antibiotic. So they can treat the patient and save their life, because this is horrible. These microorganisms which are developing resistant to the antibiotics, and they are causing a lot of deaths. So a lot of these tools that we start using and set up and work hard in the lab, then other people, the people that develop technology, then transform this into diagnosis tests, or even to treat patients, or to create new vectors or molecules for treatment. So it comes from the lab, and then it's what is called translational immunology, or translational science. Then is for knowledge, to obtain knowledge, and then somebody finds the way to transform this for practical application that can be used for a lot of people. And this is by itself is also another group of scientists which are intervening there and transforming that, which is part of what was mentioned at the beginning, these collaborations among all the groups.
Yes, no, indeed. I mean, the scientific tools are not foreign to every household, right? If you do a pregnancy test, when we were doing the COVID test, right, we were employing all these incredible scientific tools that, as Constantina was saying, right, they were developed in the lab and then impact so many billions of people's life.
Soap. If you use soap.
Yes.
that is.
We need to use soap, that's for sure.
We need to use soap. I mean, going, Constantina, to your point about microbial resistance, like that's still like one of the
and
best
not many
tools.
places in the world have access to soap. So we need to make sure that, I think all of us here in this webinar, we are all fortunate that we do, but not everybody has access to soap, access to vaccines, access to treatments. This is also something we need to change, we need to work.
Exactly. So, no, I think another comment that is coming in, creating new avenues for us as scientists to share with our local community, fostering that transparency, again, demystifying some of the alphabet soup that we work in, flow cytometry and T cells and B cells and factor A and antigen B, and that translating that into something that sounds less scary, and giving folks access to us, to explaining that would help build retrust in science. Thank you for that comment. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really what IUIS is doing, connecting that world of immunologists together, but also trying to help immunologists connect to the world. So looking ahead, it is 2025. 25 years ago, we had the great Y2K. I mean, talk about scientific.
I remember.
Yeah, exactly. Now, in today's theme for this World Day of Peace, Science for Peace and Development. There's a lot of development to do. There's a lot of peace to still be achieved. Looking ahead to 2050, how can science give us that pathway to peace? How can science advance the global development ambitions that we have? So, Constantino, I'm going to pick on you first for a change. What gives you the most hope? Let's put it that way. What gives you the most hope about the science that we'll have in 2050, or the science we need to have by 2050?
Actually coincide with the Immunology Without Borders, Science Without Borders. So science, as I said at the beginning, is a human endeavor. So we are part of just one world, is one home, and we are one humankind. So we have been divided in science in a lot of specialties when actually are connected, as Carla said. You use biochemistry, you use physics, you use mathematics, you use all these developments to solve a problem, what is available. And these ideas come from everywhere. It could be, it's based on a lot of scientists that came from different parts of the world, from India, from China, from the United States, from Europe, and they were moving. And didn't you see the list of Nobel Prize and all these huge names? They came from all over the world. Ramachandran and Metsitov, or Moncada, or
Tour du monde.
Coming from everybody. So to accept that we are part of one humankind and then collaborate, doesn't matter. Where's your skin color? Where you from? What city? We are at the moment too divided, and even more. And then we divide. You believe on right, left, up, down, white, black, whatever, And this science doesn't exist. Of course, it's made by people, and of course we have our bias. But in science, you use everything. It's very, very inclusive, and you communicate at the different levels. And this is what gives me hope that in the future, this is gonna be. It's not a religion. Science is not a religion. It's not something that we believe in. It's a process. It's a tool. Yeah, we use to improve, and it's democratic. It's disciplinary, is transdisciplinary, and is what it gives me hope for the future. And if we start following all this, we see at IUIS meetings, coming people from all over, and we are hanging around, and we are eating together, and then we are having party together, discussing together. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Then you see one world there, and then we are concerned on how to solve the problems, global problems. And then to understand, which is also coming, to have human health, we need animal health, and then we need environmental health. It's all together. This is one world, one health, and this is coming from science. This vision from other parts too, but science is promoting a lot, and I think that what gives me a lot of hope that we can also go in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're in education. In terms of that hope, and in terms of that 2050, would love to hear your thoughts specifically on training and mentorship, and what do we need to put into place now so that our scientists of tomorrow are there delivering what we need.
Yeah, thank you for that. And thank you also, Constantino, for all those thoughts, because they truly resonate with what I think hopefully can happen in the next 25 years. Hopefully it's already happening, which is what you refer as open science, which can have tremendous implications for education, access, also for mentoring, which is what you're bringing in, Emily. I think we are ready for open science. We've been ready for a while. Some of us have been advocating for it. In the past, mostly scholars were the ones that had access to science. They had access to those fancy libraries. Things are changing. Things are also changing in terms of our leaders really also advocating for open science. I hope in the next 25 years, we can have a real open science curated, in a good way, available to everybody that has access. In terms of education, we can have webinars, many of the ones that IUIS puts forward, and many other opportunities that exist to be able to connect with leaders, thought leaders, right, in different areas of immunology or beyond immunology. So true open science, where discoveries are accessed by anybody in the world that has access to internet. Let's say you need to have some access, but access to internet. And that can really enable better education, better advancement of the process of science, and hopefully better mentorship. I think that requires some other conversations. But I'd like to see in the next 25 years a true transformation of open science, like really. And I think another thing, hopefully if we have some of the leaders of institutions listening today, or maybe later on if this is available, I think we have to recognize that a lot of the progress in science, as we discussed from the beginning, nowadays, a lot of the progress comes from collaborations. So I hope that the institutions and the leaders in institutions can recognize that beyond how many publications somebody can have, we recognize that science had been advanced with integrity, that it's impactful, and that it's also collaborative. So we need to recognize the collaborative effort together with the individual contributions, but not really only the individual contributions. I think that's going to be very important, especially for our younger scientists, because a lot of the current scientific advances come from collaborative efforts within labs, but also big collaborative efforts, sometimes with hundreds, thousands of individuals. So let's hope for the next 25 years to be transformative, right, for science, to make open science, rigorous science, right, accessible to everybody.
Absolutely, Carla. That's a great quote. There's an echo in the chat here. So got a comment that it's important to recognize and encourage the recognition of science and immunology is a collaborative tool for good decision making.
Yes.
Not only in our scientific and individual health universes, but also in policy and in governance.
May I just make a comment? It's so
yeah, please go ahead. That was it.
Our scientists that are, going through this path of science, becoming the best experts on bringing in what is discovered to good scientific policies, right? Super important, right? So hopefully we have some of them listening today, and they might transition into those areas of science that we need to have to really have impact on what we discover in the lab, in the society.
And that's why it will be fundamental to have this training, this education everywhere, so that people understand the value, because then they're gonna grow up and they will become some leaders, and they will understand from the very beginning, we have science. And I think there is always, science should be part of the advisory boards in the decision making everywhere. Is advisory, not to take decisions, but for that we have the decision makers, but that they get advice Say, look, we're going to do this and that, and then people start making calculations, plans based on all the tools, because sometimes they just come out of the blue with things that say, hey guys, this has been for so many years known that this doesn't work. You know, why you're going to put money and make people spend their tax money or their money on this that is not going to work. And then we see the tragedy that happens in many places because of that. So in the next 25 years, I will also like to see educated people that is and science is in these decision-making advisory boards everywhere.
Absolutely.
And yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. We are coming up to the end of our discussion. Unfortunately, the rush hour traffic in India was not able, it was not able to join us, and Rita couldn't find a quiet spot on the train. So with their apologies, I'm going to go back to you both for one final wrap up. What would be the take-home message that you would send to the up-and-coming cohort of scientists that will be leading the charge in 2050? By 2050, I want science to be, Constantino.
Collaborative, with passion, and with training.
Okay.
And yeah.
Thank you.
Carla?
Well, I agree with
you want
also,
science to be?
I have an opportunity to add.
Yep.
I love everything Constantino said. Rigor, hard work, dedication, commitment. This is serious stuff. This is a beautiful opportunity that we all take with a lot of responsibility. So, looking forward to working with you all.
Great. Well, thank you all again for joining us. Happy World Day of Science for Peace and Development. We will be sharing this on ImmunoHub. Lena has kindly posted all of our various social media channels in the chat. So please do follow us. We'd love you to continue to be a part of this conversation, and we look forward to welcoming you on our next webinar. Carla, Constantino, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Happy